On this very special premiere episode of Game in Review, we're reviewing The Quarry.
Family is the most important thing in the world. But if your whole family, like every last one of them decided to jump down the bottom of a well and they're all just hanging on the end of a rope, how can one person be expected to pull them all back out? You can't. So you pull on that rope and you're just going to fall right down to the bottom of the well with the rest of them. And what's the point of that?
What? There is a lot more to this than you realize.
Like what?
Kidnapping, murder, cover-ups. I think the whole Hackett family is in on it.
You have no idea what's going on here. Not a goddamn clue. All right, let's do this.
Who should I call?
911.
You mean 911? Who says 911?
Goodbye, cruel world. We gotta get out.
I'm gonna enjoy watching you die.
This isn't a ghost story. It's a creature feature. It's really happening and you're all in it.
This is gonna get a little messy.
Them's the rules, you noob.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special debut episode of Game in Review, where we are going to review the game The Quarry. Now, if you are tuning in and you don't know who we are, my name is Tomye West, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Alannis Maximus. And we have a podcast. We have two kind of podcasts. We do a pop culture podcast, and we also do a movie review podcast. We are called Loud Media. We actually have a movie review series called Ranked and Reviewed. And we also have, Louder Pop Culture podcast, which we do when we can. We mainly have Ranked and Reviewed to look after at the moment, but we do a lot of content. Alannis does a lot of different content too with his own show called Nerdy by Nature. We put up a lot of different content, including a music podcast as well, which is probably coming back this week, but no promises. So if you haven't, please subscribe, like, and share, and leave a comment because it makes us feel good. Isn't that right, Alan?
It does. It makes us feel very good.
Makes me feel very good. I like feeling good too, man. Makes me very moist.
Soggy.
All right. So, as I said, we are here to review the game The Quarry, which is a really interesting game. And we'll get into explaining how this game works and what this game is about. But before we do that, let's get into a quick overview of this game before we get into any full-on details about what this game is. This is a video game called The Quarry, made in 2022. It actually was just released this month. It is by Supermassive Games Studios, and the synopsis goes like this. When the sun goes down on the last night of summer camp, 9 teenage counselors are plunged into an unpredictable night of horror. Now, this is directed by Will Biles. He's also a writer on this. Alex Farnham also wrote it. Graham Resnick also wrote it. It stars Siobhan Williams, Skylar Gisondo, Ted Raimi, Miles Robbins, Justice Smith, and a bunch more other people. That's basically the overview of this game. Now, if you're unaware of what The Quarry is actually, when you're looking at a game, what it is, who made it, the history behind the studio, you're looking into Supermassive Games, who had a giant hit and explosion with Until Dawn, releasing on PlayStation 4 all the way back in around 2015. And then after that, we got things like the Dark Pictures anthology with games like Man of Medan, House of Ashes, and Little Hope. And they're all sort of like bite-sized versions of what this game, The Quarry, and Until Dawn are, which are sort of very cinematic driven movie feeling games where you make the decision of, do you go this way, do you go that way, what's this person going to do, shoot, run, hide, so it's a very controlled experience, being like it is a movie, but it also is very open-ended too, because you can have lots of different things happen throughout your gameplay. You can have all people die, you can have all people survive, you can have a few survive, you can have it's a big surprise whatever decision you make. And usually every time you play it, the game will not be the same the whole way through, because someone will die that you didn't kill off beforehand and change the whole story up or game up completely. So every choice has a consequence. I want everyone to think while we're talking about this about the butterfly effect, which is that the smallest choice you make can have the largest consequences at the end of the game. And that's basically what this game is about. So now that I've given you a quick rundown of it, I'm going to get into the thoughts of this game, what we think about this game, and I'm going to do what I always do, which is start with Alannis' thoughts.
Yes, I've played through it twice now, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I mean, first time I played it, I had some early on deaths and pretty much carnage at the end of it, and I think I only had a couple of people live. But the difference in that, especially that end segment, I had a whole almost complete chapter of stuff that I didn't see the first time around, involving the narrator, like the Fortune, the tarot lady, her son, and everyone else that's still kind of alive, which was really interesting because the other ones I played, like the Dark Pictures, it didn't get quite that expansive on the playthroughs when things change, but this was like a good extra half hour of gameplay, which I thought was really cool. It was a very enjoyable game. Like, it was longer, but I think like my first playthrough I hammered out in, we'll probably say the length of a day, because I started on the Friday night and finished it on the Saturday. It was just gripping. I was gripped.
Nice. So, I mean, let's not talk about this game too much right now in like comparing them to other games from this studio in the Dark Pictures. How would you put this game as a standalone game up? Like, how would you review this game? How would you rate this game? Because I feel like if you haven't got a history with this game company and you were getting into this game, The Quarry, you may have been a little bit misled on how this is presented to you, how this game came out, because I do feel like this game has very little gameplay compared to previous installments. I feel like Until Dawn and even the Dark Pictures throw a lot more actual, like, literal gameplay at you rather than just cutscenes and cutscenes. You have more control of the situation than I think this game gives you. So, like, as a standalone game on its own, if you have no history with this series or whatever, how would you review this game and what would you give it?
I'll give it, it's kind of the narrative gaming thing. I think everyone needs to know before they get into it. It's the kind of thing, like with Telltale games as well, the kind of thing when I say you play when you don't know if you want to watch a movie and you don't know if you want to play a video game. You'll play something like this. Like, if I wanted to sit down and play an action-packed hands-on video game, it wouldn't be the one I take off my shelf. But knowing what it is, knowing it's a narrative kind of game where you're more just playing an interactive movie, it reminds me of like the old pick-a-path books.
Yep. That's exactly how I look at them. It's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure Goosebumps book.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, I don't think it'll be for everyone, but at the same time, I think I've never actually played one as a multiplayer game with friends, but they have that option, and I think one day I'd like to.
Got it as couch co-op, yeah?
Yeah. I think there's going to be online, but at the moment it's just like hot seat. You pass the controller on, and each person controls character. And they've also got in this one as well, which I found really interesting, a movie mode where you pretty much just watch it and you make decisions. You can choose how much you want to decide, and you can watch it like a movie or a series, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And, I think it's it'll make for a very kind of cool I guess not party game, but sitting around with a few friends kind of game. You don't have to be a gamer to play it at all. Like,
Agreed.
You could have never played a video game in your life and play this and do well, I think.
Yeah. And that brings me to my next sort of questions and my sort of feelings on this game is, how do you feel about this game and once you finished it twice through, as you said you've done? Are you walking away being more positive than negative with this game, or are you feeling a little let down after playing it?
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not rushing to play my third playthrough like I want to. I probably will in maybe the next week or so. But after playing it back to back twice, it's kind of going, well, that's enough for now. Like, I don't feel like watching essentially the same story 3 times in a row back to back.
This brings me to my problems. This brings me to my problems with this game. Yeah, I feel like, okay, so a bit of history quickly is that this game was originally meant for Google Stadia. It's a streaming game. Yes, so this game was being produced by Supermassive Games specifically and only for Google Stadia console, which is, if everyone knows, a giant failure of a streaming console that they released. So what I feel like
came out.
Yeah, the Stadia came out. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah.
It came out. And yeah, this game never got released on Stadia. It kind of got abandoned. And 2K were like, I guess we'll just save this game. Now, this is what I'm questioning about it is, sorry, my dog is being a pain. This is what my question is because of it was Google Stadia, is that why I feel like this game has aspects that are amazing, like in graphic wise, and also really bad too. And I feel like it's because they finished portions of this game before Google Stadia kind of ate the dust. And then PlayStation or whoever, or 2K, sorry, came and were like, we'll rescue this game, we'll buy it for this much money. We're only spending this much more money on it to get it finished and out the door. You know what I mean? Because I do feel like it's so close to polished, yet it's not. You know, it's still got these turds that show up. And by turds, I mean that, like, dude, I had so many weird graphical glitches. I feel like a lot of the fucking motion capture was, like, better on some people than others. Like, I think that, for example, I think the Asian actress's motion cap is done fantastically in this game. And then I feel like Emma's motion cap is done really badly. I don't know if you felt that when you were watching it. I just felt like the way their mouths moved, the way their facial expressions changed, like one was clearly above the others, you know? And that's what I feel like this game has a lot of, is parts that take you out of the experience because it is so well done. But those moments, like the splashing of the water was...
Oh, the water was terrible.
It looked so bad, and that's just not on for a game in this day and age. I also didn't like how you could tell this game was shoveled onto a disc and launched onto brand new consoles that can do way more with loading screens, with transitions. Like, we didn't need any loading screens in this game. We've shown that with consoles that we don't need it now. And this game quite clearly has these loading screens baked into the way the game is made. So, like, even if you're putting it on the quickest disc with the SSD, you're still getting this, like, almost last-gen experience with this game. And that also makes me question the quick time events in this, because they were fucking easy as shit. They were so easy, man. And I have a problem with that, because with Until Dawn, this is the best way to put it, is Until Dawn would give you 2 options. Are you going to run? Are you going to hide? And the clock would count down. You've got 10 seconds to make this decision, making it feel a lot more exciting. Whereas with this game, it's like, would you like to run or hide? And you can sit there for 10 minutes with your friends and be like, what do you think we should do? You know what I mean? Like, there is no rush to it. Whereas I feel like Until Dawn in those games, it's like, you better make a decision now. And that's it. Like, so while this game has so much going for it, I also feel like it has a lot lacking. And one of the biggest problems I have is with Justice Smith's sort of, his whole performance in this game is really shit. It's terrible. Like, it's so bad, man. Like, he's so one note. Like, he barely opens his mouth. Like, I don't know, man. There's a lot to this game that I loved, but there was also a lot I didn't like, including the part in about Chapter 8, which I spoke to you about, where I feel like when we cut back to what's been going on at the prison, it just drags too long. Like, you're like, come on. I didn't really like the curator this time, being the older woman with the tarot cards. I found the tarots quite useless. They didn't show you anything. They, like, with the other games, like, you see things coming up or whatever, and you can kind of be like, oh, so I don't want that to happen. I want this to happen, and try to guide it a different way. Whereas this was like, we're just going to show you someone getting brutally murdered in the middle of them getting murdered, and you're not going to have any idea how this happened. You know what I mean? So, while I do feel like it was like definitely a spiritual successor to Until Dawn, it didn't quite reach the highs of Until Dawn. And it's really hard for me to call myself a Supermassive Games fan when I have, like, probably enjoyed Until Dawn more than anything else they've done, and everything else I've kind of been a bit meh on, including this game. So they're my main concerns. How do you feel about all of that?
Yeah, no, I think it's understandable. I think there was I noticed a lot of hair glitches as well, especially on Abby. Like, at first, when I was first playing it, I thought it was like a dramatic effect, like kind of the background shaking. Then it moved on a little bit. I'm like, no, her hair's still vibrating.
Dude, I had the hunters out in the fucking forest, and they were standing, and the camera sort of panned, and as it panned to the left, the old dude, the grey-haired dude's head smooshed against the cave and, like, spread across the cave like it just this, like, fucking giant head across the cave. And I was like, man, it's so weird that this game has such bad performance issues in certain parts, because it's such a controlled game. It's not open. It's not physics-based. It's like, it's all motion cap. It's all in the can motion capture. Like, I don't get how it's so, but then again, I think about it was for Google Stadia, which is why I'm thinking the quick time events were so easy compared to usual, because they're literally they come up with plenty of notice and they tell you what way to point the stick. And it's like,
I also didn't like the hold your breath ones. Like, in the,
they did wreck that, didn't they? They did wreck that, didn't they?
Yeah, the hold your breath. It's like, what the fuck am I meant to be doing here? I passed maybe 2. But it's like,
Dude, I passed all of them. I'll tell you what you had to do. Hold the breath till the red goes away on the screen. So you hold the button down till the red goes away on the screen. Like, that is not what the old games did. Like, you used to have to do the heart rate thing. So the heart thing would come up and you'd have to do duh, 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 duh. And that was way more hard to time, like precise time those and get them all correct and shit, and you'd always fuck up, and it would always be like, that's the game though, that's fun. And this one, I never felt like I was in any danger of losing what I wanted to do. It also brings me to my other big problem, which is how little of Deputy Dewey Riley we got in this game, man. Like, he was in it for the first 3 chapters, and then not. That was for me anyway.
I didn't mind it too much, just because you also had, well, for me, Ted Raimi, who's Sam Raimi's brother, big horror guy. You had Lance Henriksen and Ethan Suplee and can't remember her name. The older chick. She's from the Insidious movies, I believe. But yeah, so there's some kind of sci-fi horror actors in there, like it's a pretty big cast. So if they weren't there, I would have been annoyed that there was less Dewey. But I do get what you mean. If you're there, kind of excited about David Arquette being in it, you don't get much David Arquette.
No. I do feel like, they used the actors that they had really well, except I feel like Justice Smith was. It's not all Justice Smith's fault, because obviously he had some direction. Yeah, he obviously had someone going, yes, that's what we want. That's what we want. But it was painful, man. I don't know if you felt that way with him. Like, I know that some people have played this game through and barely had any Justice Smith because they kill him off pretty early. But in my playthrough, he was alive the entire time. And he was very, like one of the mains as well.
Monotone.
Dude, it was boring as fuck. It was boring as all get out. Like, no shit, man. But at the end of the day, I do think this is a fun game. I don't think there's any rush to go out and pay full price for it like we did. Especially considering I paid $99 for this fucking game because I have a digital PlayStation.
I think the price tag was a little bit high considering what it was. Because
Definitely.
Dark Pictures, I think you pay $70 at most. I think this should have been priced
I don't even
around
think that, man. I think it's like $45 or some shit, isn't it?
There you go. Yeah, it's not much. And I mean, what I got out of this game didn't justify the price rise, I don't think.
No, no way. I do think they're asking way too much with that price rise. I also think that was probably the price they put on it and the budget they put. They probably had the money they needed to make back on this game, and Google Stadia had gone all out because they were thinking they were going to be this next big thing, and it just wasn't. And 2K were like, let's get it, but yeah, like we still got motion capture to do, and we're doing a less better job on these people than the other people. And I don't know. I feel like that's how the game kind of has come together. Is like it was meant to be on a streaming console, which failed, and someone saved it and put the money in to get it out that they needed to get it out. Like,
it's funny you mentioned the motion capture as well because Ted Raimi, his face, like
amazing.
He's doing a bunch of stuff. He's got these little mannerisms and these micro movements, and they got it spot on. It was it looked like Ted Raimi. Like I could have almost believed in some cases he was just filmed there. But then, as you said, like Emma, sometimes the other characters, their faces just didn't look right. Like you could tell you were watching an animated person at all times almost. And they kind of had the crazy eyes sometimes as well that don't really look at what they're talking to and go all over the place. Kind of thing.
And I felt that with some of the transition shots. Like when you're at the house, like, dude, there were some stupid fucking things that happened. Like when you're upstairs, I don't know if you had the same part with the Asian character, and she's got the gun and she's upstairs with that one hunter, and you can hide in the dark and shit, and you hide from him and you don't get seen, and then you run past him and you're like, I'm over here. And you're like, what the fuck did I just hide for if she's going out now in the fucking, so he can be set. It's the same thing that happened like when Justice Smith was running through the house at the end and getting chased by one of the dudes, and the guy's like, I couldn't even tell if the guy knew that he was there from the acting, but then the guy's like, you can't hide from me in my own house, boy. And I'm like, what? I thought I was like hiding from this cunt, but I wasn't. Like, I do feel like a lot of it, as I said, man, it just feels like a last gen experience with this game. It feels like it was just like, oh, this is running, this is good. And it's like, we could have used none of the loading screens, none of that. I also don't understand the whole 80s horror vibe that they set with the title screen of this game going into the game, because there is absolutely no 80s horror vibe, like synthy soundtrack. It's very like modern. So I don't understand this whole 80s cassette tape television thing, like CRT television thing that they have at the title screen. Because I was like, that's cool if it's going to have like this like kind of campy 80s horror feel, the whole thing, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of weird choices with this game, including the story. I think it was bizarre that they chose that, because when it was like showing you itself, like the story in like chapter 8 or whatever, I was like, what, are they going to really do this? Oh, they're fully going into this. Okay, they're committing. Well, I guess I'm in for it then, because it's kind of silly, you know, like a werewolf fighting people and they turn into werewolves and they got to fucking kill the werewolf before the night's through. Like, I don't know, man. I do think, I enjoyed my experience, but there were parts in it that I felt dragged. And I think that the experience could have been cut down to a Dark Pictures style experience and probably been better off for that. With having a high budget that they had, the high actors, the good script, everything being more budget but smaller, I would have felt even better about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But this is what we got. And while it's not, in my eyes, an Until Dawn successor like they said it would be, it is the closest thing we've had. Even the monsters, I think, are the same monsters as in Until Dawn. Now, don't quote me on that, because I haven't played Until Dawn for a long time, but they look exactly the same. Yeah. Exactly the same.
I think from what I read of Until Dawn, then Wendigos, which it's very similar to a werewolf. Yeah. Slightly different rules, I think, but they're pretty much the same sort of thing.
I'm going to bring up a picture of what the fucking Wendigos look like, yeah?
I thought it was very interesting what they chose for the way to present werewolves as well. Like, they weren't, apart from their, like, legs and their kind of elongated arms, I didn't really get wolf out of that.
No, so here you go. This is what the Wendigos look like. That looks very much like the monsters in the Quarry. Now I'm going to look up the Quarry werewolf, and that's it there. You pretty much couldn't get any more the same.
Yeah, pretty much. It almost just looks like they've repainted the models.
Exactly. So, my final thoughts on this game is it's definitely worth playing, but don't pay full price for it. Wait till there's a sale. Wait till it's been out for 6 months. Then maybe pick it up. Like, I know this is a spoiler review, so majority of people watching this are probably going to either have played it or not care about having it ruined for them. But if you do care, like, wait. We can't really spoil this game for you too much because everyone's playthrough is going to be different. The story is going to go different for everybody. I know for a fact that Alannis' playthrough was completely different to mine, focusing on different characters, things like that, a lot more heavier than other characters. So basically, all you have to know is that it's a fun game, but it has a lot of flaws, including not being very gameplay orientated, even though they could have done a lot more gameplay orientation. I feel like House of Ashes, Little Hope, and Man of Medan had lots more interactivity than this game. Do you feel the same?
I do, and I also feel there wasn't. I don't know if I just missed the opportunities in the order and where people died, but I also feel in the narrative when someone dies, there was no real gravity to it. Like everyone's just kind of like, "Well, this night sucks." I'm like, "Your friend just died." Like,
yeah, there was a weird choice. Like, I didn't understand the whole Hunters thing either. Why they were so fucking like out to get everybody. Like, I understand the story and everything, and I understand but like they didn't seem like they were doing it for the right reasons. They just seemed like sick and sadistic about it all. So I didn't really understand those characters. Do you kind of get what I mean?
Yeah. It's
the mother was weird.
It feels like there should have been more time than 6 years for it to unfold and get weird. Like because you'll consider with it that they would have been fairly normal people before that. Like,
definitely. So, my review of it, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. That's my score for it, a 3 out of 5. It's nothing major. It's nothing that you must play. It isn't a must-play game, but it is good if you're into horror, if you're into story-driven games, if you're into kind of being caught up in a cool story rather than a game. So yeah, I mean, it is worth playing, but I'd say a 3 out of 5 for me. What about you?
I'll probably say only because I'm really into the cast, like Ted Raimi and that. I'll probably give it a 3.5, but at the same time, that's more like rating the cast and the story than the actual game itself. The game did have a lot of problems that I'd probably rate it lower for if it was other people in it, I think.
Definitely. So, this is where we're going to get into the trivia of this game. Now, there isn't a lot because it's brand new, but I'll read out a few of what I found. So, motion caption started for this game at the beginning of 2021. This is apparently the spiritual sequel of Until Dawn. Inside one of the cabinets that you're allowed to inspect early in the game, a chainsaw can be seen resting on a counter with the word groovy on it. The G is hidden, but this is an obvious reference to Evil Dead, where Ash Williams' character uses a chainsaw. Now, we've got 3 more trivia bits left, and these are all spoiler orientated. Laura has the most playable sequences. Though it said you can play all 9 camp cancelers, you can only play Max once in the last chapter for approximately 5 to 7 minutes if he survived until then. And a reference to its predecessor was cut. When Ryan is mentioning time-hopping vampires, the legend of the Wendigo was going to be mentioned, but was ultimately cut from the finished product.
No.
So that is the only trivia we have available of this game. As I said, I've pretty much given you a fair bit of it, which is that it was a Google Stadia only game. So, I mean, we're going to pretty much wrap this up already, which is there anything you want to say on it finally, Alannis?
No, you summed it up pretty well. Yeah, it's a good narrative game, but it does leave some things to be desired in what it's done. Yeah.
Definitely. So, yeah, we recommend you go check it out for yourself if you're really interested.
On sale.
On sale.
Don't pay $100.
No, don't pay $100. I paid $100 and it was not my
at this point as well, there's probably people that don't live in Australia going, $100 fucking dollars? That's what it's like to live here. Everything's
digital games, $100, $99. Dude, that's a chunk of change.
Yeah.
Especially for this game, you know? I mean, I think when Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart came out, it was like 120. I'm like, nah. So, that was our first episode of Game in Review. Now, these aren't going to happen a lot because me and Alannis play a lot of different games. But when we do play a game together, we want to be able to bring you a review if we're both doing it and we can chat about it and things like that. So this is the first episode of this series. Now, Alannis is always going to be reviewing games from the Xbox Series X side of things. I will be always reviewing games from the PlayStation 5 side of things. So it's cool that you can come here and you can get an idea of what you're actually getting into from each side of the console spectrum. So, I mean, I don't think you had any more noticeable problems that I had. I think you're pretty similar. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. I know it wasn't very long, but you can only talk about this game for too long before, we're just retreading water. And yeah, like we've got a lot coming up this week. We've got our Batman Dark Knight review hitting. We've also got this coming out. We've got the music podcast hopefully coming back this week. And we're also leading up to the Halloween movies where we're going to be ranking and reviewing every Halloween movie in the series, starting from Halloween 1 all the way through to Halloween 6, and then Rob Zombie's Halloweens, and then the requel Halloweens. Like, we're getting all the way into some fucking Michael Myers in August. I'd say we'd have to start in August, yeah?
I think, yeah, it'll be... If we're doing one a week, well, if there's 8, it would be August.
Yeah.
8 to 10. So, yeah, August.
No, it's more than 8.
Jesus.
We've got Halloween 1, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 5, The Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween 6, or maybe that's The Curse of Michael Myers. Halloween 5 is The Revenge of Michael Myers. Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Then we have Halloween H2O, Halloween Resurrection. Then we got Rob Zombie's Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Then we've got Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends.
That sounds like we're going to be starting at the end of July.
Well, get ready for some Michael Myers. Also, if you haven't checked it out already, we have done a lot of these episodes. We've done all the Scream movies ranked and reviewed, all the Jackass movies, Indiana Jones,
Jurassic Park.
We've done all of them, and it's a really fun time. And what I'm really excited about is, Alannis, have you heard any news about Scream? Because I have. And the cool thing is, A, New York. B, Halloween.
I read in passing about it being in New York, and I didn't know if it was real. It was one of those, it was in a meme group, and I'm like, some of those things these days you kind of look at and you're like, I don't know if that's real or not. And then I forgot to look into it more.
Well, I've seen shared pictures from the set, and it's set in Halloween, having Ghostface run around Halloween, New York. And I'm guessing they locked in Courtney Cox straight away because it's a very Gale Weathers movie, heavier movie. And that, I can see that because if you remember the new one, Dewey left her in New York with her own TV show. So now we have Ghostface going to New York and Gale Weathers being the main protagonist. I see this is where that's going, I think, anyway. And also, I don't know if you saw, but Ezra Miller fired from Flash.
Oh, good. Good. He's a piece of shit.
Yes, he's wanting... apparently, he's like got kidnapping charges or something going up against him now.
Well, he should go hang out with Jared Leto.
Yeah, both a fucking scumbag piece of shit.
Yeah.
So, everyone, we got a lot of stuff coming up. Please subscribe, like and share. Make sure you leave a comment because it makes you feel good, makes us feel good. That's the deal, right, Alan?
Yes, let's all make each other feel good.
Exactly.
The circle of good.
So, everyone, that was our gaming review, The Quarry. I'm your host, as always, Tomye West, and joining me is my lovely co-host, Alannis Maximus. And we'll see you on the other side. Keep being loud. Right, Alan?
Right.
And when does this episode end, Alan?